right.
This is your entertainment ticket. Latest and greatest movie review. This is your entertainment ticket. Yeticket.com. Yeah.
Hey, this is Al McGee with your Entertainment Ticket. I'm here at the FAU Living Room Theaters, and I'm going to interview a very remarkable director and producer for a great film called Rosenwald. Hey, this is Al McGee with your Entertainment Ticket at www.yeticket.com. I'm here with a director and producer of a very brilliant film that I saw, a documentary about Julius Rosenwald. Now, this is a guy who influenced my life. I didn't know who he was. I'd like to introduce you to Aviva Kempner.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here in Florida.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you're here, too. But I'm really glad you're here because I really enjoyed your film. But my first question to you about Julius Rosenwald is this. I grew up in Chicago. I went to the museum. I lived around the place that he built, and also I shopped at Sears because he was part owner, worked at Sears. How come no one never told me about him?
Well, I think it was purposely on his part. The museum you're talking about is the Museum of Science and Industry. You notice they don't call it the Rosenwald Museum, even though there's like a field museum in Chicago. He really was a very modest man. He gave away $62 million in his lifetime to things like the Museum of Science and Industry. He didn't want his name on things. He wanted to give for the sake of giving and making people's lives better, and often in tandem them with matching grants. We're sitting here in Florida. He made sure that there were 5,000 schools built for African Americans, young children at the turn of last century. And he would give a third, the communities would give a third, and the state would. And they would start calling them Rosenwald schools, but that's not what he wanted. He wanted to make a difference.
He did make a difference. He also influenced many African American artists and also people who worked in the field, many different fields and things like that. For example, like Booker T. Washington. What was his influence with and on Booker T. Washington?
He was a big businessman in Chicago, leading a life very much in his own Jewish community, and then he read Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington, which really changed his life. He realized that there were horrible things happening in the Jim Crow South, and then he met Booker T., who asked him to be on the board of the Tuskegee University that he was running, and through that they developed improvements to Tuskegee, and then he realized he could really make a difference in education. And Booker T asked him to build 5 schools, and he says, well, why don't you use the kid houses at Sears? And he says, no. Booker T said, no, we're going to build the schools. Started with 5, and it became 5,000. 600,000 African-American kids went to Rosenwald schools, including Congressman John Lewis, poet Maya Angelou. I mean, there's a famous director named George Wolfe. It's just made an incredible difference. Then the Rosenwald Fund, we just heard about the McCarthy grants. Way before the McCarthy grants, there was the Rosenwald Fund that supported people like Jacob Lawrence, the artist who did The Great Migration, people like James Baldwin, Marian Anderson, the singer. It made a difference in these people's lives very early that they could have access to going to Europe or just the freedom to do painting.
What got you interested in this man and also the things that he did?
Well, I have always made films about underknown Jewish heroes, from Hank Greenberg, the baseball player, to
I know about him.
To Gertrude Berg and the Goldberg.
I read about her too.
Yeah, but I heard Julian Bond talk about him 12 years ago in Martha's Vineyard, and I decided this is the film I have to do.
Now, was it hard to get a lot of that information that you put in the film and pictures and things like that?
Well, it took 12 years, partly because of funding and partly in terms of getting finding the archives. But I also use a lot of feature footage. There's going to be some nice surprises when people come and see the movie, hopefully starting on Friday and hopefully lasting for weeks here in Florida.
Oh, yeah. And again, like some of the feature films that you use, I was totally shocked that that was still available. How'd you find some of that?
Well, that's what you do when you're a researcher. I made sure to look at I have scenes from Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, Raisin in the Sun, Frisco Kid. There's something with Rawhide with a surprise, a very famous director in today's world. So, you know, when you decide that it's beyond archival footage, and we also have great archival footage, but also to use feature footage, the world is your oyster.
Miss Kempner, Rosenwald. I'm still fascinated by this guy. For example, I even stayed at the YMCA there in Chicago when I was a young man going to school, had no place else to go, and then the rent was reasonable. Now, why did he get involved with the YMCA?
Again, he had read Booker T. Washington's book, and the people from the Ys came to him and said, you know, there's this great migration. Blacks are leaving in droves because conditions are so bad in the Jim Crow era. And when they're coming north, they have no place to stay. And he agreed, okay, I'll match a third. I'll give $25,000 for every Y, and there's 28 Ys all over the country, and the one you went to, the Wabash Y, still
Exactly, that's it. Yes, it still exists. Because my sister, when I was in Chicago in March, I said, "Hey, I used to live there." My sister said, "Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you used to live there." Wow. So, and also he became part of Sears. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. He was in the clothing business like his dad was. Now, this is a man who stopped going to school at age 16. So the irony is he helped in so many educating people, and he was more self-educated. In any event, his brother-in-law presented this opportunity to buy into Sears, but actually Richard Sears owed him money for suits that he had ordered. He came in and he made it much more efficient and to the point of running it himself, and it became a multi-million-dollar business. It was really the Amazon of its day.
You know, there was many African-American black artists who were involved with him, and also Newman also took advantage of the scholarships and money that he was giving away and things like that. How did you realize that this was very important for American history? Remember, this guy is an American now.
Right. Well, I think it's all of our history. And when I started realizing the famous Great Migration series by Jacob Lawrence had been funded under Rosenwald, Gordon Parks, whose works we celebrated, had been funded by Rosenwald, Marian Anderson, who's probably one of our greatest opera singers.
Oh,
ever,
yes.
was able to go to Europe under Rosenwald, and that's when she was discovered. I realized this story was much broader than just the schools.
Well, I wish people would get a chance to see Rosenwald, because this is very important. It was very important to me also. It brought a little tear to my eye, because I said, wow,
Just
this is
one? Just one?
well, you know, I'm a man. I can't tell the truth.
Yeah.
But you did a great job as a director. Now, also, you directed other films in the past, too. Can you tell us a couple of them?
Well, Partisans of Vilna I didn't direct. I produced. It's about Jews fighting Nazis. The Life and Times of Hank Greenberg, the great golden age of baseball slugger for the Detroit Tigers.
And Yahoo, I saw that one.
Yoo-Hoo, Mrs.
Oh,
Goldberg,
Yoo-Hoo.
the first woman, the first sitcom on TV that was developed by a woman. And, you know, I really feel in the world today we need heroes. And in each one of my films, there's a hero. I just think with Julius Rosenwald, it's the most underknown until the end of the
He is.
And the most important thing that it opens up in Florida this weekend, up and down the coast. You can go to rosenwaldfilm.org to find out where it is. On Friday night, I'm going to be here at a couple theaters, and it's all over the country. So when you see the film, hopefully direct your neighbors to go, but also people all around the country.
And you're my hero for bringing this to me and educating me and making me realize there is so much more to life.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And I'm so glad I met you.
Same
Thank
here.
You are watching Yeticket.com with Al McGee, movie reviews and interviews. This is Yeticket.com. Yeticket.com, your entertainment ticket.
We are your entertainment ticket, that's right. Yeticket.com. We are your entertainment ticket, that's right.